Hey there guys, thanks for joining me for another video. Whenever we go trekking deep into the wilderness, it's important to be not only self-sufficient but also safe. Therefore, it's important to carry with us a well-stocked first aid kit. I brought along my favorite small-size first aid kit, so let's take a look inside. First off, you'll notice it's in this small clamshell style case. I like this case because it's pretty durable, it can take the hard knocks of the trail, but it's also mostly water resistant. And I say water resistant because I wouldn't really ever fully submerge this, but glancing water generally doesn't affect the medical supplies inside. It's also very small and compact, that is by design, such that it easily fits within my pack. Also, like I said, it's a clamshell style case, so when I open it up, all of the contents are well displayed, and so it's easy to find what I'm looking for. But because this case is so small, there are a couple items that I bring along for the ride that don't readily fit inside. So let's take a look at those items first before we get into the case itself. First up is a brand new 6-inch compression bandage, also sometimes called an Israeli battle bandage. This is brand new, still vacuum sealed in its case. I use this as a hemorrhage kit because it's nice and absorbent to be applied as a dressing for most injuries, but it can also be used as a tourniquet, which was its initial intention. My hope is that I never have to use this on the trail, but I bring it along just in case. Next up, I have a roll of Ace bandage. I bring this stuff along mostly to use for its intended purpose, which is to stabilize sprained joints. A severely twisted or rolled ankle can turn even a short walk into a really long day, so I bring this along because it's helpful to stabilize a knee or an ankle so we can keep walking on it and finish our journey. Both of these don't weigh very much either, so it's well worth taking them along. And the last item that doesn't really fit in the case itself is a roll of Leukotape. This stuff is a miracle in the backcountry, and it is one of my standbys. I use this for bandages, and I use it in place of good old-fashioned Band-Aids. One of the main reasons it's so useful is because its water-resistant properties. Once this stuff is stuck to the skin, it almost never comes off, which makes it very useful at treating blisters, which are almost always in the damp, sweaty environment of our shoes. It's a little bit heavier, but because it's so multi-purposed, it's very well worth taking along. Alrighty, so now let's open up the case and take a look inside. So when we open up the case, you'll notice I have similar items grouped together on each side. On this side here, I mostly have bandages and gauze. I have several different types, mostly to suit different applications. I also have some Band-Aids and some butterfly bandages for repairing injuries to the face. You'll also notice I have a pair of scissors and a pair of Hemostats right on top. I mostly use the scissors for opening bandages and cutting bandages to size, because like I said, I usually use bandage under Leukotape in lieu of Band-Aids. And of course, a set of Hemostats are very useful in the backcountry. Their applications are only limited by your imagination. I also have a smaller set of scissors, which are sharper than the bigger pair and are usually used for cutting away skin or hair or things of that nature. I also have a straight needle, which is very useful if I need to lance a blister or some sort of infection, something of that kind. I have it wrapped in tape to keep it as sterile as possible. I also have a couple scalpel blades, which are more than worth their weight. I also have a good size roll of moleskin. This stuff, as I'm sure you guys know, is great for treating blisters, and I usually cut a small patch of this and cover it with Leukotape, and I usually do that because the Leukotape is much better at keeping this stuff in place than just the adhesive that's on the moleskin itself. I also have some isopropyl prep pads. This stuff is good to have along for either cleaning skin or cleaning my tools. Using this stuff is about as clean as you're going to be able to get something on the trail or in the backcountry. Another set of tools that's great to have along are a couple different sets of tweezers. I have one set that's very sharp and another set that's more blunted. depending on the application, but no first aid kit is complete without a good pair of tweezers. So moving over to the other side, you're going to notice it's mostly all drugs. You're going to recognize most of the names because they're all over-the-counter drugs, but in my opinion, or in my experience, over-the-counter is plenty strong enough for most backcountry applications. So first up, we have good old ibuprofen. This is good for pain and is an anti-inflammatory, so it takes swelling down. Next, I have some Benadryl for allergies. This is also good because it makes people drowsy and can act as an impromptu anti-anxiety to calm people down. I have some aspirin, which is a blood thinner and painkiller. I have some Tylenol. These are Tylenol PMs for sleepy time, but Tylenol is also a good fever reducer in addition to being a painkiller, so it's good to have along. I also have some loperamide, which is an anti-diarrheal and also really helps with fluid retention so we don't get dehydrated in the backcountry. And speaking of dehydration, something I always bring along are trace minerals. These are Propel packets. These are great because I can take these packets anywhere, and they also have calcium, magnesium, and phosphate in addition to your other electrolytes, so they really pack a punch when you're trying to rehydrate someone quickly. On this side, I also keep my Neosporin, and I keep some gloves just in case things get really messy. And I also have a small syringe for irrigating wounds. This is super glue. This works in place of sutures, and I bring this crazy glue because it seems to me that it dries fastest. I also have a couple things of NyQuil just in case someone has a cold. And the last items I have in here are some Court Aid, which is an anti-itch cream, a small packet of sunscreen, and a tube of chapstick. And this really isn't part of my first aid kit, but this is something that's almost always in my pack. This is a small signaling mirror that I bring along for lost hiker emergencies, but this is really useful if you need to get things out of your eyes or if you need to treat your face when no one else is around to help. So there you go, guys. That is pretty much the full kit. It is pretty small and compact, but that is the intended purpose. I encourage you guys to go out and build your own first aid kit from scratch. That way it will be tailor-made for your needs and you can eliminate some of the redundancies. For example, you could use a Leatherman instead of the scissors like I have. But building one from scratch will also have the added bonus that it'll be custom made and tailored for you such that it will fit your needs well. The ones you get from the grocery store are usually just a bunch of Band-Aids and a bunch of gauze and maybe a pill or two if you're lucky, so they're pretty much useless. I also always keep this first aid kit in the same pocket on my pack, and it is also well labeled such that other people know how to access it in case of dire emergencies where I might be the patient. If you're feeling a bit overwhelmed and don't really know where to start, I've compiled a small checklist of things that I think you should carry with you into the backcountry that are relevant to first aid, and I'll include that checklist down in the description below. Also, by design, this is a very small, very bare minimum first aid kit designed to be carried in a pack. If you are interested in a larger, more elaborate first aid kit for, say, car camping, I've also made a video on that subject, and I'll include a link down in the description as well. And thanks for joining me. If you got any value out of this video and would like to see more how-to tutorials like this one, please subscribe and don't forget to hit the bell icon for all notifications. Thanks again and have fun out in the wilderness. Be healthy, happy, and safe on your next adventure.